Welcome to the 5th day of the International Expert Symposium online, Ivoclar Vivadent. I'm Jean-Pierre Attal, and I'm very proud to share this International Expert Symposium, in which we are exploring the motto, Succeeding Together, Tomorrow's Dentistry. We are about to start the 5th live sessions. As every day, it is an hour, with brief, straight-to-the-point lectures by well-known international experts, followed by an interactive panel discussion. It is interactive, so please do not hesitate to enter questions into the chat box. Answers will be given in the panel discussion or as part of the Q&A download document that will be made available after each day. In addition, you will have the chance to listen to deep dive 60 minutes lectures on all topics in on-demand webinars. These will be made available to you on this platform right after the live session. I remind you that most lectures will be in English, some other in French, and all will be available in English, French, and German through subtitles. The panel discussions will be in English for all sessions. You know now that you can earn CE credits. Just you have to answer the little quiz we provide for each session and webinar. Today, thank you very much to Comet Dental Company for support. In the first 4 days, we had the chance to listen to great lectures and take part to very interesting discussions on different aspects on digital dentistry and aesthetics. If you missed it, just check out the on-demand section of the site, where you will find the sessions of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, as well as 60 minutes webinars of the last 4 days. Today, it's about efficient aesthetic dentistry, addressing as important aspects to many of us as clinicians in the world. How to satisfy patients' needs, but in an efficient way, important, of course, for many dental offices. The first presentation is from Professor Ronaldo Hirata. Professor Ronaldo Hirata is an assistant professor at the Biomaterials and Biomimetics Department of New York University and also runs a private practice in Curitiba in Brazil. He is globally admired for his scientifically well-founded tips to achieve direct restorations very efficiently, which remain central to the majority of dental offices in this increasingly digital world. Ronaldo, please tell us now, what do you think about direct aesthetics in digital world?
Thank you for the introduction, Jean-Pierre Attal. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. It was an awesome idea from Ivoclar to do that online, knowing all the circumstances that we are facing. But basically, my topic is going to be composite. I'm going to introduce myself as well. My name is Ronaldo Hirata. I am professor of biomaterials at New York University. I'm doing research and also teaching in the pre-grad and post-grad. And I still have my clinic in Brazil. My clinic is in the south of Brazil. The name of the city is Curitiba, basically focusing restorative dentistry, okay? Composite and ceramic. My idea is to discuss a little bit composite. This is a 10 minutes lecture. We're going to have a 1 hour lecture also that you can attend, but this is an overview of everything that we're going to discuss about composite. we are facing nowadays this discussion about ceramics and composites, and we have a trend of restorative dentistry focusing too much ceramic option as the main goal or the better restorative treatment. And basically we are facing this because of this trend. What we have nowadays is we have too many options for very conservative restorative treatment options. And because of that, we are having too much over treatments done by the clinicians. This is a paper that we published basically discussing this over treatment that we are facing. And this is a 3-month follow-up, 3 months follow-up of no prep ceramic veneers done in a patient, very young patient. And then you can see that we are having a lot of technical problems and also ethical problems because of these over treatments done. The second thing is we are too excited about technology. Of course, technology is good, but we are too excited. And because of that, also we are having this trend to over-treat patients, restoring too much. This is the second thing. And we have some cases that still the handmade, the traditional composite restoration, handmade, is the best option. And this is a very good example. This is a young patient. Her dentist offered her 2 veneers in order to have the same aesthetic result on both central incisors. And this is interesting because basically after removing the ceramic veneer that was chair-side made by CEREC, I'm going to remove that. And then you can see that single teeth is a very good indication for composite, handmade, traditional way of doing composite restorations. And then I'm just reproducing some things. I'm covering something that she had in the past. There was this hypoplasic stain by using these gray Empress colors, tints. And basically I'm just doing the layering technique just to show you that some cases the best option is still a very simple composite restoration. You have to be able to use, you have to be able to do a very good composite reconstruction. And this is a case that gives us an idea about it. So we have too many options of restorative treatments. We are too excited about technology. This is good, but sometimes a simple technique focusing composite direct restoration is still the best option. In composite discussion or about composite used for anterior teeth, we published many papers in the past. We discussed techniques and composite systems. But what I can see from the companies and from the market is that the composite systems are becoming more simple. We are simplifying composite systems. And also I can see that techniques are becoming more, of course, more accessible for the clinicians. Because, for instance, this is a clear system called BioFit. This is an anterior matrix for the clinicians. If you are not able to reconstruct freehand the composite restorations, you can use sometimes a band that gives you a very good adaptation to the margin and the contour. So this is just an idea because you can see that we have more simple composite systems, and also you have some options for the clinicians in order to simplify the technique as well. Let me show you one case. This is diastemas. I have to close this space. I'm going to use the rubber dam. This is a standard. I'm going to sandblast the surface. And then I'm going to use this simplified restorative system that called tetric prime. That is very simple. And I can feel that you can have a very good aesthetic outcome just by using one shape. In this case, I'm going to use tetric prime transparent. Many times I associate the flowable consistency in order to get a very good adaptation. This is a 10 minutes lecture. Just remember you that I have a 1 hour lecture that covers very much all the techniques, and I can discuss more details about it. But I am finishing this anterior restoration using transparent tetric prime plus flow. And then you can see that sometimes just using one shade of these universal systems, composite systems like Tetric Prime is a very good option for the clinicians. And you can have very good aesthetic outcome with this kind of composite systems. So pretty much this is what I feel for anterior teeth. For posterior, what we can say is that, of course, we have data, we have results from the past, we have the background of composite. This is a very old composite. These pictures were taken by an analogic camera. This camera was Pentax from Pentax. This was K1000. But you can see this case, this very old case of mine. I finished the composite. You can see the follow-up. On the right side, you can see 11 years after. On the right side again, 15 years after. If you check in the X-ray, you can see that the adaptation is very good still. This is 18 years after. On the right, 21 years after. And this is 24 years after. You can feel that for composite, you have the background already. You have data to support. We can trust in composite restorations. What do we have for posterior? Do we have new ideas or newer ideas? Basically, the newer idea is bulk fill composites. That is basically composite that you can do without doing too much layers. Let me show you one idea about that. We published a paper showing that if you layer too much, usually in the end, you include too much voids and bubbles inside the composite restoration. So if you are able to use less layers, of course, you're going to have less failures, less voids. And this paper is basically discussing this. So the first advantage of bulk fill, you can have less failures. The second advantage of thinking about bulk fill composite besides having less failures inside is this. You're going to have a simple technique. You don't have to use too many layers. You are simplifying technique. If you simplify technique, of course, you're going to have less failures because of that. And you can see on this graph bar, you use less time in a bulk fill restorative procedure compared to a stratified layering technique that we used to do in the past. So it's a more simple technique. You have less time, you use less time in order to finish this technique. And this is the second advantage. How do you work with this? I'm going to show you in this video, a very quick video, just showing you the flowable Evoceram bulk fill. The shade used was IVA, that is kind of universal, is the A shade. I just bulk fill. I can use a layer until 4 millimeter thickness, and I can cure in just one time. I just leave a space for a covering composite. That can be a regular composite like Empress Direct or like Evoceram or Tetric Prime. I just finish the restoration in 2 layers. I bulk fill everything with this flowable composite, and then I cover with another one. So this idea of bulk fill composite is something that you can take and you can use it in very simple cases, and this is something that you can see in this case. I can just use the EvoFlow bulk fill composite. I have this property of covering the background, and I can have more opaque result, and then I just finish with a regular composite. This is the bulk fill. What we're gonna have, and we're gonna discuss in this 1 hour lecture, is that we have also some composites, bulk fill composites, that can be used with this high intensity curing lights, 3000 milliwatt centimeter square. Use it with bulk fill composites. You can cure till 4 millimeter, but instead of curing for 20 seconds, there is the average, you just use 3 seconds. I did some research about that. These newer composites we call power flow and power fill. They are bulk fill composites to be used with this high intensity curing lights. This is a good result that we have as well with these newer composites. So we can finish this 10-minute lecture just thinking about these simple techniques that we have and the options that we have using simple composite restorations. And remember, sometimes technology is good. We have many options for restorative treatments, but you have to have the ability, the dexterity to control and to get very good results also with simple techniques. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ronaldo Hirata, for this very, very nice lecture. And now I will introduce you Dr. Marcus Lennart. He has a great passion for direct restorative dentistry. Not only is he applying his skills every day in his busy dental office, but he also loves sharing his knowledge. He has given more than 800 lectures and serves as an editor of several scientific journals. Marcus, now it's your turn. Tell us how you consider direct aesthetics in the daily routine.
Welcome to the webinar, and thank you so much, Jean-Pierre, for the kind introduction. In this short presentation, we'd like to talk about direct aesthetics versus efficiency with respect to posterior restorations in the daily routine. And the first question that I'd like to ask is, aesthetics versus efficiency, is this a contradiction? And that depends on what you expect from your restorations. You may go to a continuing education course, to hands-on, to a seminar or congress, and you'll be shown how to do the perfect restoration using like dentin and enamel colors, using translucent colors, or working even with opalescent material. And eventually you end up with the perfect restoration. But is this really what you do in your daily routine? I would say, as long as you're not running a dental boutique, it's probably not what you really do. How often do you really do large anterior build-ups? And how often is it really important to get perfect aesthetics? And then, in the end, if you're being told that you could always achieve a perfect match, you're not being told the full story. Getting a perfect match in anterior composites is still a lucky strike. And I don't think that is really the goal that we would have to go for. An aesthetic restoration does not need to be invisible in large magnification. It should be invisible on speaking distance. This is what the patient can expect from your work. And that is important, that you match your patient's expectations. We will go, there's a very nice example if you want to visit me in the in-depth, in the longer presentation. I would be happy if you would join there. We can look there more into the details of all these procedures. But I would like to show you these two cases just to illuminate the situation. You see on the left-hand slide a restoration that I did years ago, the cracked tooth syndrome, old amalgam restoration. And I did a 12-layer composite restoration with a sophisticated fissure system with tiny little fissures, parafissures, pits and grooves. And I even stained the fissure system to make it look more realistic. But has that really been necessary in order to match the patient's expectation? Probably not. If you would ask the patient, do you mind about the brown stain in your fissure system? I guess we all know the answer. So if you do things like that, this is more or less ego-driven because you can, or you want to show that you can do it. And on the right-hand slide, we have a large cavity, and what you see there is a 3-layer bulk fill restoration with a very simple fissure system. Simple but functional. Do you really think that patient would worry about the aesthetics of the restoration? Well, the goal is, one more time, certainly not to be invisible in large magnification, especially not in the posteriors. The goal is, when you look at this here, to have a reliable procedure that in the end gives you a restoration that is durable, that is functional, and that matches the basic tooth color. So when you look at the choice of materials, today I would recommend that you do your anterior restorations with a universal composite, and only in selected cases, and only a few rare cases, you really have to go for a special composite, special for anteriors with dentin and enamel colors and maybe opalescent colors. But that's hardly ever needed. And when you look at the posteriors, today that's very simple. I don't see any reason not to use a bulk fill material for your standard restoration. Let's talk about class 2. You can always do a class 2 with bulk fill restorations, and maybe only in the large restorations where you do have to do cusp replacement. Maybe you replace a buccal cusp and you want to have a little bit more choice in color and aesthetics. You may want to go for a universal composite, like for example the Tetric Prime. So when we look at the flowels today in the market, they were first introduced as a bulk fill, flowable bulk fill, because of their lower filler load. You had to cover them with a more stable conventional material to guarantee stability of the restoration. Shortly after the introduction, we had then the introduction of the high viscosity bulk fill materials. So they had a higher filler load, a higher flexural strength, and you could layer them still in 4 mm layer thickness, but right up to the occlusal surface, they were stable enough to withstand occlusal loading. And of course, you could combine these two approaches in the depth of the cavity using a flowable bulk fill material in layer thickness up to 4 mm, and on top you use a high viscosity bulk fill, which then gives you the fastest and easiest procedure in restoring a cavity. When we look at the results of these materials, and we will find that in vitro studies and even the clinical studies show that there is no difference in the bulk fill restorations compared to conventionally layered restorations. When we look at failure modes of composites, so why would composites have to be replaced? Why do they fail? We will find that number one reason for failure in composites is the fracture of the restoration. It is not caries as often assumed, because there is not much difference in between caries prevalence in different types of restorative materials, simply because the main reason for caries is still the oral hygiene of the patient and the diet of the patient. So when we look at composite, we will find that fracture of the restoration is the main reason. And so we have to ask ourselves, what can we do to prevent these fractures? And there we would have to look at material-related parameters and restoration-related parameters. And in this short lecture, I just want to have a short look at the material-related parameters. But of course, if you join me for the longer lecture, we will go more in detail on the designs of the restoration. Now, when we look at the material parameters, it must be clear that all physical properties and the longevity, the clinical performance of the restoration is directly linked to the quality of polymerization. If you do not polymerize adequately, you get more fracture, more wear, more marginal breakdown, and of course more discoloration. So that must be the major goal, to polymerize correctly. And if you look at the situation here on the left-hand slide and on the right-hand slide, you just see the same situation, but the light guide in a different position. On the left hand, a little bit further away from the tooth or the composite surface. On the right-hand side, right in contact. Does this make a difference to the quality of the restoration? Well, in fact, it does make a tremendous difference. It is decisive for the longevity, for the quality of the restoration. You do have to polymerize adequately, and one more time, join me in the in-depth lecture, and we're going to look at this in more detail. Now, when you look at the latest generation of curing lights from Ivoclar and Vivadent, they have what they call a curing assistance. I would say it is an educational tool to guarantee that you do the light curing correctly. The two curing lights that you see here is the G4 with a power output of 1200 milliwatts per square centimeter, and here the Power Cure with a power output up to 3000 milliwatts per square centimeter, where you can actually light cure the latest generation of bulk fills, the tetric power fill, in as little as 3 seconds per layer. As I said, they have a built-in educational tool. These curing lights measure the amount of reflected light that is reflected from the tooth surface, and these lights will realize if the amount of reflected light from the tooth surface is too low. The light will actually realize that you are not close enough to the tooth surface, you're not polymerizing adequately, and the light is giving you a warning that you have to concentrate. Actually, it turns off if you do a major mistake there. So that is very helpful, especially if you do not do the light curing yourself, but you let your dental assistants or the dental nurse do that. And I would just give now, to end this short introduction, I would give you one case, which I call a Class 2 high-speed bulk fill composite with a new tetric power fill. And you see here on the left-hand side the new tetric power fill, and this is a bulk fill material, high viscosity, that can be light cured with every curing light in the market, except you want to benefit from the full potential of the material and really light cure in as little as 3 seconds per layer. You have to have a special curing light, the Blue Phase Power Cure, with the output. It has what is called a 3 seconds mode, an output of 3000 milliwatts per square centimeter. And we look here at the initial situation, a small caries that penetrated into dentin, an active caries lesion. On the right hand side you see the situation after preparation. Now on the left hand side, the situation after the placing the matrix systems, which we will look at in detail again on the longer presentation. Then you do the adhesive protocol with universal adhesives. What you see now on the left hand side, that's 1 layer 3 second cure restoration. As long as the cavity is not deeper than 4 millimeter, you can fill the cavity with just 1 single layer and light cure it in 3 seconds. And you see that on the first premolar, and then the same on the second premolar, and then on the right hand side you see the finished restoration after removal of the matrix systems, and finally after polishing. And if we look at this now, we can ask, is this a perfect color match? And it's certainly not. You see that the material is slightly more translucent than the tooth. But will the patient really be able to tell the difference? I would guarantee the patient can't see the difference, and probably you yourself can't see the difference, and you can certainly not see it on speaking distance. On the other hand, you have a very fast, comfortable, reliable way to do a restoration in the posteriors. So thank you so much for attending this short introduction. I hope to see you on the in-depth lecture. If you have any questions coming up that cannot be answered, for example, on the live discussion panel, you could always send an email at marcuslehnhardt@bluewind.ch. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Marcus, for this nice lecture. And now I will introduce you, at last but not least, Dr. Pete Hajny. He used to be a dental technician. Nowadays, he works as dentist who runs a private dental practice in Prague, where he provides first-class treatments to his patients in both direct, restorative, and prosthodontic dentistry. In addition to a passion for very high quality treatment, he also has a passion for doing his work efficiently. What does it take to determine whether an offered treatment is indeed efficient? That's a good question. What can be improved? Pete, please tell us how we can change for the better in daily practice.
Hello from Prague, from Czech Republic. My name is Petr Hajný, and I'd like to thank to Jean-Pierre Attal for presenting me, for the warm welcome, and I'd like to thank for the invitation for this huge congress. I was looking forward to see all of you, meet all of you in Paris. Unfortunately, we are in this situation, so maybe it will have some advantage. Maybe we will have more listeners. So I'm glad to be part of this huge project and amazing project. I'd like to focus on efficiency in this presentation. You can then see more of the information and even the movie in the longer version of this presentation, which is on demand. But just quickly go through the information that I prepared for you. We are trying to change to be better in our daily praxis, and we are in the sad situation where we have to be, let's say, more efficient because of many things, and we'd like to succeed together in tomorrow's dentistry. And my question is, what do you think is the tomorrow's dentistry or today's dentistry? Well, the world's spinning very fast, and a lot of new things, new technologies, new materials appeared. And the big advantage is that we are not focused only on reading the books. It's already a very, very past time that all of the knowledge came from the school and from the books, because now we have a lot of social media, we have a lot of internet informations, and everything is open. So especially in these days when we all spent a lot of time at home, we had more time to focus on ourselves, on our lives, and also to study, because we had a time to sit by our computers and focus on the information that we didn't have time maybe in our daily praxis. And when we combine all those knowledges, skills, and all those informations available, we can improve our praxis and our, let's say, future dentistry to much more efficient, and we should be more happy about our work. I like this combination that I explain usually when we try to focus on aesthetic dentistry. When we want to do the higher aesthetics, it's not only about dentistry. We need to be engineers today because we work with a lot of digital equipment, and we also need to have some artistic skills if we want to talk about the aesthetics, because everything all together then makes a really skilled dentist. And when you combine it even with the dental technician, then you are able to do all those high aesthetic results in a very short time, because you can combine the digital way of planning, of manufacturing, and do it quickly, as I do. And this is my way of one visit dentistry that I try to do for my patients, the maximum that I can do in 1 or 2 visits to fulfill their wishes. We can change the smiles, we can change the function, everything can be controlled digitally, and we can make more patient happy more quickly, which is of course more efficient. We are in a bad period. We all have some issues with the new virus that appeared, and it's a global problem. So it's a global problem to be efficient. So even I talked about the efficiency in dentistry in the past time, I think now is the right time for everybody to think about that. And it's all about thinking and measuring all those simple things in indirect and even indirect dentistry. And if you want to improve that, first of all, you need to realize how you work. You have to measure that. And the easiest way how to measure is to use the digital dentistry, because anything we do, and it starts from the pictures, is digital today. So digital equipment has some stamps, timestamps and date stamps on everything. So even you don't need to focus on how to measure that. In the future, if you will think about the treatments that you did, you can go to the past, you can check your photos, you can check when you started. If you have a pre-op photo, you can check the picture after, and you can calculate easily how efficient you were and how efficient you are, because of course we are improving our skills. We are getting faster, we are getting more skilled, so everything is getting better. How to improve efficiency, especially in these days when we have to be more careful about everything, and we have to, let's say, cover all those expenses. We've stopped, our offices stopped for some time. In many countries, stopped completely. And there were some restrictions that didn't allow us to do all types of treatments. So we lost a lot of money, and we have to pay for all that equipment. So how to improve that? How to improve our efficiency? First of all, there are two basic things. When you ask somebody how to improve the earnings, everybody will ask, let's lower the costs. Usually, this is a main question. What is the cost of the treatment? And everybody will think about the cheaper materials. This is the wrong way. Or we can raise the prices. It's also the wrong way. Not only we are in the crisis, even our patients, our clients are in a crisis. And so their companies are not working as it should be. And they also have to save the money. So increasing the price is not the good option, especially in this way. First of all, we need to think about the costs. The cost of the treatment is based on the time of the treatment. The material itself is not a big problem. If you use cheaper materials, okay, you will save more time, you will save more money, but you will lose the time because you will not make with the cheaper materials, usually the higher quality. So you will then need to solve the problems with complaints and with remaking. So how to improve in direct restoratives? We have a lot of new options. We have a lot of new materials that really works. And I will go through that in the longer version of this presentation. So if you want to know more, please go on demand presentation. But it's simple. First of all, we have a lot of new materials that saved a lot of time. Each material, if it will save any minute of your treatment time, it will cover the expenses for those materials. So it's not about buying new materials for more money to make the treatment more expensive. No. When I used for the first time the Optrogate, I realized that I saved 10-15 minutes of each treatment. So it means that it earned to me a lot of money just with the Optrogate. And we have a lot of other things. We have new adhesives. In the direct restoratives, everything is based on adhesion, on bonding. And now we have, for already many years, the system that really works. It's not only about universal combination that we can use it with different types of composites and even for the cements, but different types of application. We can use total system, we can use sulfate system, we can use selective etching. Another thing is the filling material. If we talk about the direct restoratives, we need to be very fast because we are treating also the children, but effective. It needs to work. Those fillings have to be aesthetic, and those fillings have to work for many years. And in that time came bulk fill that is completely different. Tetracable bulk fill is different from other bulk fills that you know from the market because it has completely different structure, but it works extremely well. And now with the new power fill, we are very, very fast. I've made some tests and I've made some study about that, and we realized exactly how many minutes we saved in average on each type of filling. And you know what? If you realize that you saved 30% of the time at least on each type of treatment, if you calculate it to the 1 week, to 1 month, to the year, you will realize that you saved a lot of time. It's up to you. If you will do more patients, more clients, because of that, much higher efficiency then, much higher earning, or if you will save the time for your family, for your life, for your hobbies or whatever. Another thing is, if you do the composite, you need to polymerize it exactly how it should be. It needs to be fast and it needs to be high quality polymerization. And we have another equipments now. We have a clever lamp, Blueface G4, that is self-control system, first intelligent lamp that can control even how you use that and can help you to use the proper polymerization, not only proper light, proper power, but even proper position of the light curing lamp. So it helped to us a lot and improved the quality. The quality that you can check on each study is based on the polymerization. How to improve efficiency in the indirect restorations? It's again easy. You know, most of the restorations that we do in the last 15-20 years are bonded porcelain restorations, and those bonded porcelain restorations has to be etched. And how to etch it? Out of fluoric acid, of course, but it's not true for many years again, because we've changed the system. Now we have much easier, much faster, and much more efficient system of bonding of the glass ceramic. Another thing that changed the indirect restoration was also the CAD-CAM. Of course, CAD-CAM came more than 30 years ago and changed the way of manufacturing. And now even the chairside CAD-CAM was improved. So now we have the first 5-axis milling unit. Please go to the higher version, longer version of this presentation that is on demand, because I will show you the movie directly from the chamber and you will see how amazing this milling unit is and how it works. The computerized manufacturing is something that changed even the way of treatment. So I can show you how to make the full mouth cases and full mouth reconstructions in 1 day, 2 days, and how to make it more efficient. When we talk about the planning, there is a long time talking, many years talking about digital smile design. We did a lot of hundreds, thousands of cases with the digital smile design. I've personally made a lot of wax-ups, mock-ups, and other plans. And then we realized that the only virtual planning that we need is, or the purpose for that, is for discussion with the patient, to get all the informations and visions of our patients to understand what to do with their teeth, with their smiles. So first of all, there is the communication of the case with the patient. This is the reason why we need that. And Ivosmile makes it easy because you can immediately in the first visit communicate directly with the picture from your phone or iPad, the plan that you have, your vision you have, and discuss it with the patient. Of course, you can motivate the patient and you can do some plans and combine it with another softwares. So any material, any equipment that saves the time and makes our life, our work easier is efficient. Don't waste the time, because this is the most expensive thing in our daily lives. Don't waste time to find the cheaper materials, because the time will be more expensive than the materials that you want to use. And enjoy your life. Thank you again for the invitation. I hope to see you soon live. I hope to see you soon without any masks needed. And enjoy the rest of this congress and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronaldo. Thank you very much, Marcus. Thank you very much, Peter. So we can now begin our panel discussion. And I will begin with a general question about your concept of treatment. Ronaldo, according to you, in dentistry today, there is too much ceramic and too much digital dentistry. Are there too many congresses on these two topics?
Oh my goodness. It's always like, always people believe Hirata is gonna show up with something that is like different and he want a discussion. No, but actually, I think that everybody feel that we are being pushed too much onto some trends. And we as a clinicians, we understand the day-to-day. And I would say, I have a clinic. In my day-to-day, I have a scanner, but I cannot believe that everything now is digital. I don't understand like this way. And I really believe that we still have to make this transition in a natural way. We don't have to be pushed onto the transition. It's not that I don't like ceramics or I don't like digital dentistry, but I really believe that some cases and some patients, they can always be provided with a very good result and very conservative restoration that is very simple. Sometimes it's composite, like a simple composite restorations. Sometimes it's handmade composite restoration. It's not bad. People, especially the young guys, they think that just because it's handmade, it's composite, is not so fancy, sophisticated. And it's not true, you know. The day-to-day dentistry includes also, and I really believe that 70% of dentistry is still simple and basic, you know. I don't know. I don't want to be the guy that always wants to make the fights, you know.
Marcus, according to you, in dentistry today, it seems that there is too much aesthetic, because you told us that aesthetic should be visible on speaking distance. Do we do too much?
Well, yes, I think very often it's when you go to a congress about aesthetic dentistry, I sometimes have the impression it's a competition in between the lecturers, who is doing the nicest restoration. And that does not reflect what you really see in daily business. Ask the patient, what's a nice tooth like? And probably 90% will answer, well, it's white. So I never had a patient asking me, can you build in some mamelons and a halo effect and some opalescence and I don't know what else. So for most of the patients, a simple technique will really do the job and meet their expectations. And the rest, well, it sounds a little bit hard, might be an ego trip of the dentist.
Yeah. And Marcus, okay, I don't want to interrupt, but actually when we go a lot of dental meetings, we are lecturing a lot, we feel this pressure of having a very good aesthetic outcome, not for the patient, but it's for ourselves. It's our way to defend our work front of the other lecturers. Yes. So yes, it's vanity, of course, we agree, but for the patient, it doesn't make so much difference, you know. It's much more for ourselves.
Well, I agree totally, Ronaldo. I have that pressure as well when I'm up on the stage showing the pictures. But then, of course, I always tell the audience, be realistic. What we show is, of course, the things that came out best. And sometimes it looks to the audience as if we would have no failures, if this would be our standard outcome. And it's a little bit unfair to the dentist in the audience doing the daily routine and then thinking, oh, this is how I should do it. And that's not reality.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marcus. Peter, according to your concept, efficiency seems to be in relation to shorter treatment time. Speed and quality are compatible?
Yes, it is. But of course, there are different ways how to save the time. And of course, you can lose the quality. But that's what is my lecture about. It's we need to save the time with proper procedures, proper materials, not with losing the quality. And to save the time, it means also to grow up, to improve our skills. And if I can use, Ronaldo, your words, mostly we need one hand, and we've got two hands. Forget about all those new digital things that we have. Yes, we are glad that we can, in this period of time, we can use it, and we can do this modern dentistry. But first of all, we need to think manually, and there are some skills that can be then transformed into the faster work. But first of all, we need to grow up. That's also why I like this discussion, because it starts with the direct restoratives. We cannot step immediately into the digital dentistry, into indirect CAD/CAM solutions. No, we have to learn how to make those teeth. First of all, manual skills, and that's it. Then we can improve even the efficiency.
Thank you very much. About materials now, Ronaldo, you show us a very nice result for a case after 24 years. What is your secret? I know that it was your mother, but it was done with very old composite resin. Which material was it? And very old adhesive. How can you explain such a great result?
But I will tell the composite. I will not be like a stupid stuff. It's a very old composite, very basic one. Is named Renamo Hybrid from MEDENT. Was that, and the adhesive was OptiBond from Kerr. And if you think about materials, so for instance, if you take Herculite from Kerr, we have Herculite for 29 years, I think already, 28 or more, and we still have the same composite nowadays. Sometimes we believe that materials are changing so much, but actually we are changing more than the composites. Our technique are developing more than the materials. We are better than the new materials. And if you think about this 24 years restoration from my mom, I think that I was doing the basic. If you think about the restoration, it's the basic stuff. The polydent band was very basic. And basic is something that people are not willing to do nowadays. They don't want to do the basic. They want to do like veneers. They want to do DSD. They want to do everything, like increase dimension. They don't want to do a very good class 1 restoration. This is something that everybody does. And I really believe that you have to manage very well the basic. And then you can go for another stuff, but you have to know how to do the basic. And I stayed 10 years from my professional life doing very basic things. Class 1, class 2, class 3. I want to do rehab. I was working with a rehab dentist, very famous. And then I told him, I want to do rehab, everything, like yourself, all crowns and everything. And he told me, you have to know how to do a very good class 1 and class 2 restorations. And then I stayed 10 years doing just that, class 1, class 2, class 5. And then I begin to move. But we have to manage the basic, I think.
Thank you, Marcus. About material, you propose an universal composite in anterior teeth and a bulk fill and universal composite for posterior teeth. Should we throw away our body, enamel, and dentin composite?
Well, of course, no, you shouldn't throw it away. But honestly, you hardly ever have to use it. I mean, be realistic. I use a body or dentin enamel in large class 4 in young patients. But how many large class 4 do you do per week or per month? I mean, how many people do you have coming in after an accident? Most of what we do is redentistry, and most of my patients have like 5, 6, 7 anterior restorations with 10 different colors, and they don't even mind.
So why should I build a mamelon in that teeth? So I think it should be reserved for special cases, and it's good to know the technique. But I don't think that's the standard restoration. I don't think it is necessary to meet the patient's expectations.
Thank you, Peter. To gain time, you propose to use an universal adhesive. Do you think that universal adhesive is as efficient as three-step etch and prime adhesive or two-step self-etching primers?
Well, all of those systems work itself, but it depends on the manual skills and of course on the way of treatment. For me, as simpler as these new products are, it's easier to work with, and also you will do less mistakes, and it means better results, better efficiency. And if you compare all those flexural strength of all those materials, those new universal adhesives have better results on dentin. We have better results even on enamel, but the main thing is the improvement of the dentin bonding. And if you compare it to the 3 steps, and if you understand what we did in the 3 steps, you can transfer those skills and knowledges from 3 steps adhesive to universal adhesives and make it even better working. And of course, with the selective etching, it works extremely good.
Thank you. About bulk materials now, I have many questions from the participants. Ronaldo, what is the curing time you advise for bulk composite? And you know that this bulk composite have shrinkage potential. Is there a concern with micro leakage?
So the standard time for curing bulk fill materials is 20 seconds, but I mean 20 seconds if you have a very good curing line. I think that Marcus can make a point on this curing lines, but I'm considering that you have a good curing line. About shrinkage, we did publish some papers on shrinkage and interface sealing after curing bulk fill materials, and the results that we have, not for all the bulk fill materials. Some of the bulk fill materials we had a very good, very bad results for shrinkage. But for instance, Ivoclar, I test the flowable and the regular, and the result for interface and shrinkage was very good. But about the time, it's 20 seconds. But we have to pay attention on the curing line. And then Marcus will say something about it. But most of the problems that I see in the clinics and clinicians is that they don't pay too much attention on the quality of the light. So this is a problem. Many times we say 20 seconds, but the curing light of the dentist is not good. So this is something that we have to take care of.
Thank you, Marcus. For you, bulk composite are essential in today's dentistry, not too translucent?
No, I think especially with where we use them in the class 2 cavity, I think that's the standard cavity or a class 1 cavity. Most dentists do not really do full crown build-ups in the posteriors with composites. So if we look at class 2, class 1 cavity, they are more translucent than most of the teeth. Is the patient able to see the difference? I don't think so. So I have no concern at all when it comes to aesthetics. So my standard restoration in the posteriors is currently a bulk fill restoration. And only when I do, for example, rebuilding a buccal cusp, or I do a full crown build-up with a composite, I might go for a universal composite to get a better color match. But for class 1, class 2, I just don't see the reason for that. So I would say it is essential.
Thank you. Peter, what is your opinion about bulk composite in all situations?
Well, I love it because I use it in most regions. The main thing is, of course, at the first tries, I was a little bit disappointed with the aesthetics because I had to learn how to work with that. And that's it. With each composite, you can make some aesthetics, but you need to learn how. And for me, it's not different aesthetic or worse aesthetic. It's about the translucency, brightness, and the opacity. And if you know how to work with those materials, how to mimic the dentin and enamel tooth structures, then you can use the bulk fill materials even in the front if you have transparent teeth by the older patients or whatever. So it's about the knowledge how to make the aesthetics, how to make the layering or whatever of the combination. And I usually use bulk fill even in front, but only in some cases I have to cover that with some other composites, usually with the Empress Direct. But you know, it's the material that made the direct restoratives, again, more safe, more easy, more efficient for me. And of course, if it's faster, then it's better, even for the patient.
Thank you. Marcus, about handling, is rubber dam essential?
Well, it comes to what you look at. When you talk about the quality of the restoration, I think it was shown that it is not essential. There had been recently a review in the Journal of evidence-based dentistry, and they showed that there's hardly any influence of the rubber dam when it comes to longevity or performance of composite restorations. What it does do, first of all, relaxes the dentist, and even that was shown by measuring the stress levels. But it saves time. So I would always recommend using one, but if you're not using one, you don't have to have bad feelings. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you have the situation under control. In other words, as long as you keep saliva and blood out of the cavity.
Yeah, I think that I will make a point on that, because this question about rubber dam is that, of course, rubber dam is good for us, is easier to work, but what we are facing now is something that if you don't use a rubber dam also for cementation, you are a bad dentist. And we have been doing dentistry for 25 years. So after 25 years doing dentistry, now if I don't put rubber dam to make a boning of a crown, I'm not a good dentist. So it's a misconception, you know? It's not that I don't like rubber dam. I love rubber dam. But you cannot say that if I don't use a rubber dam, I'm a bad dentist, because this is not true. And we know that is not true. And there's a very good paper. There are many papers. There is one very good paper. There is a systematic review on rubber dam, one. And you will see that the conclusion pretty much is you don't have data to support saying that if you use rubber dam, you have better quality of restoration. I'm not saying that you have not to use or you cannot use. I'm saying that we don't have this scientific data to support so much noise about rubber. So we have to relax a little bit. No, we are a dentist. We're not graduating now. We have 20 something. So easy. Rubber dam is good, but we have to go easy, you know.
But Ronaldo,
sorry, but I have to say also, you know, that's what happened. You know, when I started to do the dentistry in the office, it was something like, yes, now rubber dam for everything, and we used it for everything, really for everything. And so far, what happened? Now there are a lot of colleagues saying that if you're not able to place rubber dam, you cannot use adhesive dentistry. You have the problem. And then I realized, no, we use rubber dam to help us. We use rubber dam when we want, when there is the indication, and when we want to make the work easier for us. And of course, sometimes it's not possible to treat the patients without rubber dam. Yes, there are some teeth, some situations, but it doesn't mean that in all cases we need to use it. You know, that's completely, you know, strange.
Yeah, and talking about COVID, and talking about, because we are talking to a lot of people, and you're gonna face this, because we are facing here. We understand now the clinic, in order to finish the case, you cannot take so much time. Like, no, you have to be easier. You have to do like a very good treatment, but in a easier way. You cannot make too much complexity in a case during COVID time. You cannot take like 3-4 sessions just to do a scan, a digital design. I make a mock-up, you go away, you come back, I make a video. COVID times, no. You have to make a very good, very, very good treatment, efficiency, but in a simple way. The way that we used to do before. Because in the past, we used to do very good restorations in a simple way. Not so much complex, you know. I think, but okay, this is my point of view.
Thank you very much. I like very much this live session because it is really a not politically correct discussion. So
I think that this is the last meeting that I will be invited. So thank you very much.
You can retire, Ronaldo. About failures, Ronaldo, what are the most common failures in posterior composite restorations and how to avoid them?
You know that there's a very good paper. I always make citation of this paper. I don't know if I did in this lecture, but is 2014, it's a paper, Journal of Dentistry. And basically the failures that we have for composite basically is interface, there is secondary caries or fracture. It's one of two. And secondary caries, marginal failures are pretty much because of our technique. I always say that if you have difficulty adapting composite onto the margin, you have to consider using some flowable composite, some flowable consistency composite. And many people have this preconception about flowable materials. Oh, they shrink too much. Okay, they shrink too much. And then you leave a huge bubble and void with a regular composite. So it's better to use flowable, you know? So marginal failure is pretty much technique. And fracture has a good relation with intrinsic resistance of the material. So maybe we will discuss CAD/CAM composites, CAD/CAM materials, but I think that if you think about huge restorations, maybe you have to go for some CAD/CAM composites. You have to move on. I think that these are the two basic failures that we find in the clinic.
Marcus, you told us in your short presentation that for you, the quality of the polymerization is one of the main reasons to explain failures.
Yes. Yes, well, for example, if you look at the work of Richard Price and many others, it is shown that the polymerization is the key to getting the good mechanical quality of the composite. It was clearly shown that often this potential is not fully used. Very often, like 60–70% of the restorations are under polymerized. It doesn't say they don't work. It says they are not as good as they could be. So really, you have to focus to do that step adequately. And it must be very clear, you can't over-polymerize a material mechanically. You simply can under-polymerize. And when we talk about polymerization times, and Ronaldo said in the beginning, the 20-second standard for the bulk fills. I always like to say, if you're not really sure what to do, simply double the recommended curing times. The recommended curing times by the manufacturer. If you double these, you're almost always on the safe side. But let me just add one thing, what just Ronaldo said about secondary caries. I think there's one thing we should not overlook. Secondary caries is maybe a question of gap formation, but it's mainly a question of biofilm management. I mean, if you do a restoration because there was a caries, you have not changed the caries risk of the patient in any way. You just repaired the defect. So the goal must always be changing the caries risk by improving the oral hygiene. And I think this is the step that's getting overlooked very often because we're then just talking mechanical intervening. Okay.
Yeah, this I agree, and actually it's important because there are many papers that show that you have a gap on the restoration and you don't have infiltration. So Marcus is right on point. It's everything about managing of caries.
Thank you,
There is
Peter.
also a study showing that even you have the micro leakage, it doesn't cause the secondary caries. The secondary caries is another problem. It's not about the filling if it's properly done.
Yeah.
And Peter, what is your attitude in case of failure? Can we repair in case of fracture, for example?
Yeah, if we talk about the direct fillings, still we do the same. We try to get some micro retention. So of course, very modern is sandblasting. I had the sand because you have it everywhere, but at least to use some rough diamond burr to roughen the surface. Then after the cleaning, again, placing some adhesive. There is not a sense to use the hydrophosphoric acid. And of course, you need to realize what is really etching the composites. There are some solutions, but usually not usable in mouth. So adhesive. Then what I recommend is a small layer of a flowable, because flowable will adapt to the surface, to the roughened surface, and it's much more adapting than classical composite or heating composite. And then you can repair it with normal composite, any kind that normally is used.
Thank you. Another concern is about toxicity, biocompatibility. Ronaldo, one of the problems of the direct technique is a low level of conversion rate and, of course, a releasing of free monomers. Is it for you a good reason to go to indirect technique?
Yeah, I think that we have this huge discussion on bioactive new materials, and this is actually one of the topics, that is degree of conversion. And as I told before, I think that CAD/CAM composites can be a very good, promising material for this circumstance, because you have a high conversion degrees, a composite, you have the same mechanical properties and stuff. But also, I still think that we have to go beyond this discussion of degree of conversion. We have also to discuss restorative. It's a combination of bioactive properties of materials, of everything. But I agree with you. We have very low degree of conversion of regular, 65% conversion degree. But CAD/CAM composites, I think that this is one of the huge advantages of CAD/CAM polymers.
Thank you. Marcus, looking at the 3-second mode with a very, very high intensity lamp, should the dentist be afraid of causing thermal damage to the tooth?
Well, I don't think so. As long as the dentist sticks to the indication given by the competency, I don't see where that will really take place. Sometimes when you do like your restoration, the patient will give you feedback and will tell you, "Oh, it's getting hot." And I'm often asked by dentists, "Is that okay?" And I say, "Well, usually it's not the tooth that's really giving you the feedback. The tooth is reflecting quite a lot of the light and the energy. It's not heating up that much. The first tissue that's going to heat up is the soft tissue. So usually it's then the interdental papilla, and this is where the pain comes from." And looking at the data currently published, I don't see where the risk should be, even if you double the curing times, which is, by the way, allowed for the material, so you can light cure twice, so in 6 seconds in total. And if you really worry about this, you could easily handle the heating up by putting, for example, the large saliva ejector next to the tooth, or using the air syringe, and the airflow will immediately cool down the tooth significantly. So that can be really handled. I don't see a big problem there.
Thank you, Peter. Oui, yes, Ronaldo.
I think that one of the questions that people make often is about the power cure, because it's 3,000 milliwatt centimeter square. That's
Yes.
high intensity.
Yes.
I think that people always make question about this. And we have to remember that it's 3 seconds curing time. So people say, oh, 3,000 milliwatts. You know, this is so strong. But okay, but it's 3 seconds, not leaving 20 seconds. You know?
Yes.
And they also need to understand that it's only for the power fill. So, you know, it depends on many things, you know, so this is different story.
Peter, is biocompatibility a real concern today?
Well, I expect, you know, many things more biocompatible, but, you know, what makes my work, let's say, more growing is removing of bad composites and replacing it with some indirect composites or in indirect ceramic restorations. And when we see the gingival inflammation by those composites, we can talk about some biocompatibility in the deep cavities by the bone, by the biological width. But usually we don't know how these materials were cured, if there was also some air block and other things. So yeah, we have to improve still something, still in the composite chemistry. We need to improve all those biocompatibilities, but it's getting better, and more than those informations about the biocompatibility is improving even our skill to reduce this toxicity, let's say.
Thank you. About direct versus indirect technique, Ronaldo, is there any clinical situation where composite would be better than ceramics for anterior teeth?
Yeah, I think that this can be a discussion. I think that we can have the opinion of the others, because each professor has a different point of view for the cases. I mean, each professor defines what is the best situation for composite. But for myself, I always consider composite the first option for younger patients. This is the number one. I don't agree. I understand aesthetics. I don't agree. I cannot accept like 21 years old patient going for ceramics premolar to premolar. I understand aesthetics. I'm from Brazil. But I think that we have to make an option for younger patients. Even if you move to ceramic later, it's not a problem. But I think that young patients is pretty much the first option. The second is if I feel that a patient never had any experience with restoration, doesn't have a restoration at all, is the first restorative treatment, I can make an option to composite restorations even if I move to ceramic later on. I think that this is the two basics. I have 8, but I think that this is the 2 most important ones. And if you think about the day-to-day in the clinic, you're gonna feel that you have a lot of cases like that. And we have a lot of cases like these that we are going too much for ceramic veneers, and we have to consider this. Ethics. Yeah.
Thank you, Marcus. What are for you the limits of direct dentistry?
I think this is, well, I agree totally to what Ronaldo said. I think there's but some things more to add, which is really depending on the country you live in. For example, is there a health insurance that covers some aspects of dentistry or not? For example, in some countries, you have to pay for a composite, but you get a refund for a ceramic. And you may end up with a large ceramic only being cheaper than a large composite restoration. So that will certainly influence the decision taken by the patient and the practitioner. And there's one more thing that I think is really important. I just look at my work. I think I'm personally much better in composites than in ceramics. So I will always tend to do composites because I'm good at it. And I have a colleague in the clinic who is Prodback, and he's much better in ceramics than and it's just the other way around. So there will be always the influence of a personal preference. But material-wise, I think the question that you really have to ask as a practitioner, can I handle it in the mouth? And I'm convinced that doing a ceramic a difficult restoration in the mouth, or a large restoration in the mouth, is much more difficult to handle with composites than with indirect restorations with ceramics. So I would tend to say the more difficult it gets, the more I would rather recommend doing a ceramic restoration to have a reliable outcome.
I think this was the perfect question for Marcus, because if you ask for the limits in directs, I think he doesn't have limits for directs, you know.
I do have limits for ceramics.
I have a point on that. That is, I understand that some cases you can go for ceramic because you don't feel that you have skills to give a solution with composite. This is okay. But what happens is that many dentists, they become too lazy, and they think, man, this is difficult. You know what? I'm going to do an impression and send to the lab. Let me ask you something. What is easier to do? An impression on a natural tooth prep or impression of an implant? What is easier? I don't know.
What was the second impression of a natural or?
Or an implant, single implant. What do you prefer to do? What is easier to do an impression? Implant or natural tooth?
Implant, of course.
Implant. You know, I take a look at the tooth and I say, man, you know what? Let's make an implant. Why? Because I think that it's easier to do a crown over implant than a natural tooth.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Makes sense? Makes sense. So sometimes dentists become too lazy, saying, let's do ceramic. No, but this case is for composite. Man, it's too much work. But the indication is composite.
Peter?
You know,
Peter?
I know. I just know how to do over implants. So let's do implants always.
Peter,
make a combination.
Peter, last question before conclusion. Peter, you are a chairside dentist, so you know very well digital dentistry. What should be the next step for you in digital dentistry?
Well, my wish and what I'm really waiting for is the invention of the biomaterials for the 3D printers. So instead of all those discussions about how to restore the teeth, let's just print the original tooth and place it back where it was. Then we don't need to talk about the direct restoratives. We don't need to talk about the prosthetics. Maybe if we will have just the dentin material, so we can cover that with the enamel directs or indirect, and that will be the enough work for everybody.
Lucky man, you are young, so you can see this in the future. Unfortunately, we have to conclude, so I'd like you a short answer, please, and I will have the same question. Peter, if you had only single one advice to a young practitioner?
Don't believe us, don't believe to anybody from the lecturers, start to believe to you. Start to think about what you do. Start to believe to your knowledges.
Don't believe too much in Instagram.
Yeah, that's a problem. You need to believe yourself. You need to understand what you do and why you do that. Know that I do it because Ronaldo told us or Marcus told us. No, I do it because it works this way, and you need to understand why it works this way. So that's it. Start to think about the work, and you will be more happy.
Marcus, a single advice?
Well, I would like to give reference to what Ronaldo earlier said this evening when we were talking before. It is really learn the basics correctly before you start doing the fancy things. The basics must be, this is where you earn your money from. This is your daily work. It's nice to be able to do fancy things, but the basics is an absolute must. That would be my advice for the young dentist.
Thank you. Ronaldo?
Yeah, I think that what is really a challenge, like a point that will really make a difference, I think that you have to find a good mentor. It doesn't have to be a professor of the dental school, can be a clinician, but you have to find somebody that is ethic, that is going to teach you what is ethic in the day-to-day practice, will teach you how to handle different situations. And this is something that sometimes we don't pay so much attention, but you have to find somebody that inspires you for the clinic. There, you have to find somebody. Has to be, can be a clinician, can be a simple clinician, but if you have a good mentor, I think it probably make all the difference for you. It made for me.
Thank you very much, Ronaldo. Thank you very much, Marcus. Thank you very much, Peter. This is the end of this 5th and last session of live of International Expert Symposium Ivoclar Vivadent. If you have any additional questions, they will be given an answer to and uploaded online tomorrow. Once more, be aware that you have access to on-demand webinar for the long version of these presentations right after. This also concludes this one-of-a-kind symposium online. I've been honored to chair it during a week and proud to represent l'Université de Paris, one of the biggest universities in Europe. Before we put an end to this event, I want to thank Ivoclar Vivadent, especially Oliver Kapler, but also the French team of Ivoclar Vivadent, Jérémy, Jean-Yves, and of course, Shakib. I thank them for granting me a total freedom to organize the moderation of all the panel discussion. According to me, this freedom allowed a very high scientific level to be reached. A huge thank you to all the lecturers, to all the 21,000 participants, and a special thank to Mexican participants, by far the most numerous. See you soon for the next symposium, face-to-face.
Merci, Jean-Pierre.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean-Pierre. Thanks to the audience.
Thank you all.
Bye.